Hey guys, I'm up north for the weekend, so I'm probably not going to be able to get together with Mason to do a Funny Bad review this week. So I'm going to try this out, doing this on my own. It's probably not going to go very well, which is why I decided to do it with Scooby. Scooby-Doo. Alright guys, I'm gonna be completely honest. I kinda like this movie. Like, as dumb and as horrible as it is, I do get a minimal level of enjoyment when I watch it, just because of the fact that I grew up watching this movie and the sequel, which I actually think is a legitimately decent movie. I still don't think it's a great movie. I still think it is Funny Bad worthy, which is why I am going to be doing a Funny Bad review of it, but I don't think it's a horrible movie. So it's one of those movies that kind of like just barely falls into the Funny Bad category, but still. And I was originally going to be doing this video later because we're going to be doing a Funny Bad review of Monsters Unleashed much later now, because this video is coming out today. Anyways, I've done enough talking. Let's get into Scooby-Doo. Okay, so our movie opens with a pretty good opening, actually. Very reminiscent of the classic mysteries, and we get introduced to our main 5 characters. Fred, played by Freddie Prinze Jr., who I think is a pretty bad actor in everything else I've seen him in. And even then, he's not great in this, but I definitely think he plays a good Fred, and he really does look the part pretty well in this opening scene. Then we get Sarah Michelle Gellar as Daphne, who I think does a really good job. Again, Linda Cardellini as Velma. Again, really good. It's raining out, so you might hear the rain in the background. Yeah, and then we have Matthew Lillard as Shaggy, who I think is absolutely perfect. And then Scooby-Doo is CGI, but I can't remember the name of the voice actor who does the voice for it, but it's good. Alright. So yeah, here's a little bit of a taste of what this movie, I wish the rest of the movie would have been.
Luna Ghost is in fact...
Oh man, Smithers! The creepy janitor?
Smithers wanted revenge after you refused to go out with him. How could you, Pamela? I am a lover boy of George Clooney in proportions.
Fred, how was the ghost able to fly? I can answer that. Watch. These balloons fill with a highly potent helium synthesis, giving the Luna Ghost his weightless appearance.
I would have gotten away with you if it weren't for you meddling kids and your dumb dog. I'll get you for this!
So almost immediately after the first few minutes getting to know these characters and getting an actual classic mystery, they split up.
I quit.
Which seems more like something that should have happened maybe more towards the middle of the movie. I'm gonna chalk it up to the fact that this movie was heavily changed to be more kid-friendly, which was a huge mistake. And then we cut to, I think it's 2 years later, and there's a really stupid pot joke here.
Primo. Oh man, talk about toasted. Man.
Yeah. Actually, I kind of appreciate it, but it's also kind of stupid because it's the only one in the movie. Well, not the only one, there's one more, but this movie... Okay, real quick, I'm gonna delve into the history of this movie a little bit. This movie was originally supposed to be a PG-13 movie, more poking fun at the original show than being a direct adaptation. And it was supposed to have a lot of weed jokes. And most of that stuff just got cut out. And I think this movie would have been way better if it had just been left in. But so, Shaggy and Scooby get contacted by this messenger who is delivering a message for this guy named Emil Mondavarius. I can't remember exactly how you're supposed to say his name. All I've done over the years is just heard his name, so I don't know exactly how it's how it's pronounced, and I've never actually taken the time to read his name. But basically they get recruited to come help solve a mystery on this amusement park place called Spooky Island. It's basically just this spooky amusement park place. And so they go to the airport, and guess who they bump into?
That is so economy. That? Oh no. I'm not talking to you guys.
So we got the gang back together, except they all hate each other. Oh, I'm really digging this movie. Honestly, the first act of this movie I kinda don't like. Just because of the fact that this is more aimed towards children, because if this was a more adult-aimed movie, like the older I got, the more I kind of appreciated it more. Because they do kind of try and take the time to build the characters a little bit, but at the same time, as a kid, I always just wanted to skip past this part. It's kind of boring for a kid. And I have a little brother, Blake. He's 3 years old, and he watches these movies. Guess which one he enjoys more? Monsters Unleashed, because that movie was actually developed and written and filmed as a kids movie, not changed drastically during production to be a kids movie after being an adult movie for so long, you know? And so they still have adult things from the previous versions of this movie still in the movie, but as a kids movie, and it doesn't quite work. But so, we get this scene of Scooby dressed as a grandma on a plane. Slight location change. I pushed stuff back because I just realized, you know what? I don't have to be right at the edge of the garage. I can bring the chair back into the garage a little bit more and absolutely eliminate all possibilities of rain. So, yeah, let's get back to it. I'm really sorry if my voice is drowned out a little bit by the rain. It's starting to die back down, but it could really start picking up again at any moment. But let's get back to it. So, on the plane, Shaggy meets a girl who likes Scooby snacks, too. But she's also allergic to dogs, which is kind of funny, I guess. But guess what her name is? The only other pot joke in the movie.
I'm Mary Jane.
Like, that is my favorite name.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
Mary Jane. Her name is Mary Jane. And she has a crush on Shaggy. And she likes Scooby snacks. And did I mention that this is the only other weed joke in the movie, and it's the worst one? Like, the first one in the van was, alright, I'll give it that. It doesn't fit with the rest of the tone of this version of the movie, but it's okay. This one is just bad. But so, everyone, the whole Mystery Inc., they get to Spooky Island and they decide, you know what? We're not gonna we're not gonna work together because that would make this movie too interesting and fun if we actually work together. We're all gonna try and solve the mystery ourselves and outdo everyone else. So, Daphne runs into this voodoo guy that I forget if he actually has a name or not, but I just call him Voodoo. And we get this actually pretty funny scene. This always made me laugh as a kid.
Excuse me? Dang it! What are you doing? Now I have to start the voodoo ritual all over again.
Voodoo ritual?
Yes, voodoo ritual. I was about to sacrifice this chicken.
And it still makes me chuckle now a little bit. I mean, it's definitely not the most highbrow humor. I mean, sacrificing a dead chicken, it's not really... It doesn't even really make all that much sense, but... it's humor, right? But so... Daphne bumps into Shaggy and Scooby at the Spooky Island Castle, where she's told to go by Voodoo. And then... plot twist, they bump into everyone else, and everyone else is still just in this mindset of, I'm gonna solve the mystery before you do. And what are you gonna do if you get caught, Daphne?
Daphne, you and I...
Typical.
What?
Oh, nothing. I was always picked last for the teams.
Okay. Daphne, exit through the entrance. Velma and I will enter here through the exit there. And Shaggy and Scooby, do whatever you guys do.
Was she really ever that much of a damsel in distress in the show, though? Really? Like, they play that joke up in this movie a lot, but was she really? I can't remember. I haven't watched the original show in a while. Anyways, so Daphne, or not Daphne, but Velma and Fred decide to team up because they don't hate each other, so yeah, there's that. And then they find this educational video on why white people shouldn't try and sound cool.
Hey, sorry, bro. I will crush your bones into dust.
Let's see how the situation should be handled. Remember, today's young people have a language all their own.
Hey, sorry, bro.
No big whoop, dog. Yo, did you catch that new vid on the box?
True that. I'm up to snizzle on all popular trends.
Word.
So then they're all hanging back. Daphne finds this thing called the Daemonitis, which is basically this little pyramid thingy that sucks souls or something. I don't think they ever actually clearly define what it does exactly. But they're going back. They go back to the restaurant for some downtime, and Velma's checking it out. And then this guy just walks over and starts talking to her. And then she tells him this really pointless story about Scrappy, just so we get this really pointless flashback scene.
Power!
Ta-da! Oh god, he's peeing on me!
And again, this kind of hints towards the original tone of the movie. And I really actually kind of like this scene. It just feels so out of place in the rest of the movie. And I hope one day Warner Brothers sees the market in it and releases... It doesn't even have to be, like, they don't even have to release it physically. They can release a poor quality digital version of it. I just want to see the original vision of what this movie was going to be. I really think it would have been amazing. But so, all the, all the Mystery Inc. gang gets kidnapped by these monsters and they get their souls sucked out. So it's up to Shaggy and Scooby to save the day, but then they get mad at each other. And then Shaggy finds the soul bucket. That's what I'm calling it. Because it is literally a bucket full of people's souls. It's a soul bucket. So he finds Velma, Fred, and Daphne's souls in their, or protoplasmic heads. And he sends them off to go find their bodies, and none of the, I think Fred's ends up in Daphne's body. Daphne's ends up in Fred's, and then Velma's ends up back with Velma, so that's good. And they all meet up, and they have this whole scene dedicated to, them just swapping bodies and getting the wrong bodies, and like Shaggy is in Velma's body, and then Daphne's, and then Fred is in Shaggy, and it's kind of funny, but also kind of stupid, and there was actually supposed to be a part in here where Velma and Daphne were gonna make out to swap their souls back, and yeah, I don't really know. I think that's one of those things that I'm kind of glad they left out, just because it already doesn't make sense that they're just swapping souls with each other, but then only being able to by kissing doesn't make much more sense. It doesn't make much less sense, though, so I guess if they had done it in a way that would have worked, I guess, but it kind of just feels like a cheap way to throw in the fact that a lot of people think that Velma's a lesbian. But so then, the team is back together. We finally get the Scooby-Doo gang back together. And they put together this plan, they go all out, and then they think they defeat the villain, and they unmask Mr. Bean. And it's a robot! And then the robot opens up, and it turns out that the plot twist, the real villain was...
I shall absorb.
Puppy power! I'm outsmarted.
Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! No! That is not happening right now!
Scrappy? Okay. Real quick. I've moderately enjoyed the movie thus far. I have some problems. I have some major problems. But I've mostly been able to enjoy it. I'm talking expressly to the filmmakers, specifically Raja Gosnell, the director, and James Gunn, the screenwriter. By the way, love you, James Gunn. But whose dumb idea was it to make Scrappy the villain? Like, I'll give the movie this. It's a clever twist. I never would have seen it coming. But that's because Scrappy just never seemed like a character that would be mean-spirited enough to become a villain. Like, yeah, he's a little cocky, he's a little douchey, but he's not villain material. He's just... he doesn't think before he acts. He wants to jump into the action first and then think about the consequences later, but that's it. So making him the villain is like if they made a Power Rangers movie where the Blue Ranger was the villain. Or Alpha 5 was the villain, I guess. Because Scrappy was more of a side character. He wasn't one of the main members, so I guess a side character. Either way, it's like if they made Alpha 5 the villain in Power Rangers. Like, yeah, I don't see it coming, but it doesn't make any sense. But anyways, they defeat Scrappy, he goes to jail, and they find Mr. Bean, who was locked away in a little cellar.
Mr. Monteberry, is that you?
Yes. Oh, my goodness. Oh, thank you. Thank
And by the way, I know I keep calling him Mr. Bean, but that's just because I don't want to call him Montevarius, just because, again, I'm not sure I'm nailing the name. I'm not sure if I'm getting it completely right, so I'm just going to call him Mr. Bean. And also, that's what he's most known for, so. And then, something that's kind of hinted at in this movie is that there's a romance between Fred and Daphne, but it's not really that well fleshed out, but hey, they kiss at the end, I guess.
Oh, Fred! Out.
It's just kind of weird because they never really had any chemistry on the original show. Like, they were members of Mystery Inc., but they didn't really have that much of a romance. No one did, really. But, sure. Alright, so that's Scooby-Doo, and I gotta say, I still kinda enjoy this movie. It's not perfect. It's not good. It's not even really okay. It's just meh. Like, there are things that work. There are glimpses at what this movie would have been that would have been a much better and more clever movie, but then there are just so many things of studio interference trying to make this movie more kid-appropriate last minute, and it just doesn't work. It makes the movie a muddled mess of tonal shifts, for one, because you have some scenes that you can clearly tell were part of the original version with the darker tone poking fun at the series with the PG-13 rating. And the stoner jokes, and that kind of thing. You can see those parts, and then you have these kid-friendly, stupid toilet humor jokes, and it doesn't quite mesh that well. And it makes for a very tonally inconsistent movie, a very hit-or-miss movie with the comedy, and just not a very good movie all around. So let's talk about some recent news about this movie that just came out before I go into the final parts of this. The original cut of this movie was rated R. Like, they intended it to be PG-13, so they probably would have cut down a couple things, I guess, to make it PG-13, but the original cut of this movie was rated R. And that baffles me. I really want to see this movie. I want to see an R-rated cut of Scooby-Doo. That just sounds amazing. Especially considering that my favorite things about this movie are what could have been. And my least favorite parts about this movie are what we got instead. So the fact that there exists probably somewhere in a vault an R-rated cut of Scooby-Doo, I hope we get to see it. I hope we get to see it before I'm gone. I mean, that gives them a pretty wide range of time to do it, but I'm just like, that's one of the things, like, I want to see that before I die. Like, if I don't do anything else in my life, I will rest peacefully knowing that I got to see the R-rated cut of Scooby-Doo. So we're getting into some morbid territory here now. Let's talk about one of the other things that was kind of funny. Apparently there was a huge amount of CGI used to cut down the amount of cleavage on the female cast members of this movie. I never noticed, honestly. Mainly because as a kid, my mind just never drifted there. Even then, right now, my mind doesn't really drift there. But I was just looking into some stuff about this movie and looking into the past, because I knew it was I heard stuff about it and originally going to be for, like, adults instead of kids. So I was doing a little bit of research on it, and then I saw that, and I was like, it's kind of funny, considering that there's still quite a bit of cleavage in the movie. But, yeah, that just still baffles me that there is an R-rated cut of Scooby-Doo somewhere. I really hope they release it. I know they're working on a new Scooby-Doo movie. I mean, hopefully maybe they'll end up releasing it, like, before that comes out. Maybe they'll release, like, a special edition Blu-ray of the movie for, like, the people who grew up watching the first Scooby-Doo movie. Because I know for me, I was, like, 1 when Scooby-Doo came out. And the movie turned 15 this year. So I grew up watching the movie for the past 15 years. I'm 16 now. I mean, so their target demographic would probably be kids that were like 5, 6 when the first one came out. So that would at least put them past like 18, 19. Perfect demographic to release an R-rated version. Especially if they're kids that actually enjoyed the movie when they were that age. So I hope we get to see it soon. As it stands, as a movie, I am going to give Scooby-Doo a D+. There are a few things that salvage this movie for me. I think Matthew Lillard steals the movie as Shaggy. I think he's the best performance in the movie. I think he does the best version of the character. Which is great because they actually ended up bringing him on to, I think, 1 or 2 of the follow-up animated series. So, clearly someone else thought he did a good job with the part. And, wanted to see him do it in something better. And then there were just the fleeting glimpses at what would have been that just intrigued me so much that it made my enjoyment of this movie a little bit better. As a funny bad, I am going to give this movie a B+. There is a lot of fun stuff to make fun of in this movie. Especially the fact that they made Scrappy the villain. It's just the worst idea ever, but I'm going to quit droning on. Let me know in the comments if you guys liked this video, if you thought that I was able to do pretty well on my own without Mason, or if you think these funny bad reviews are better with Mason. This is an experiment, and so I want your guys' feedback on this. Let me know in the comments, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.
How groovy is this, man? Spooky Island finally came through with its all-you-can-eat deal. And there's nobody I'd rather gorge myself with than you, Scooby-Doo.
Well, my best friend.
You're my best friend, buddy. You're beautiful like a beautiful piece of pizza. Zoinks! Them peppers is like hot.
Wink.
Wimp, oh, you think you can handle it? Why don't you put your mouth where your mouth is?
No. Okay. Ow.
Scooby-Doo, you feeling okay?
No! No, no!
There you go, dude! Like how that tastes, man?
Delicious!
Well, Garcon, let's get 2 more. On the count of 3. 1,